Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Coffee at the Cove. It's really a fall 2024 release for all the ships in the Disney fleet except for one notable one. And joining us today, Steve is not going to be here because Steve and his family are in Paris right now. We got such a cute picture of them in front of the Eiffel Tower. But joining us tonight is going to be our normal co-host, Christy, and our favorite bonus co-host, Lake, and the Run Disney Rundown. And the three of us are going to be filling Steve's shoes.
Yes, breaking down this itinerary release as best we can, which we really can't do it that well because we don't know all the things yet for fall.
It's weird.
So as usual, we are live with our Patreons. If you're interested in Patreon, join us at patreon.com/DCL podcast. And then you could be watching our faces as we do this.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's first just point out, I'm curious, Christy, because you're the most experienced travel agent. How does the timing of this release compare to previous years? Like, is this when you expected it to come out, or is this a little bit late?
I think it's early compared to when, personally, the last release was, but I think it's normal. I think this is the normal-ish time. There is a historical release date that I didn't look up for the cruise line, and now I can't do it while I am on this. But I don't know. I guess I wasn't, maybe because I just went to Alaska, it was sort of off my radar. I wasn't considering it. I guess it's a little bit smart, like they're doing their halfway to Christmas business. And this is a way to discuss sort of maritime cruises this year. And also you can book yours for next year. So.
Right. And they did just make announcements for this year's very maritime cruises that they're going to have all new Christmas offerings or holiday offerings, like a deck party, it looked like, and some new outfits for the Fab Five. Little bit more festive, a little bit more modern. They're doing this because they're calling it halfway to Christmas, right? Or halfway to the holidays.
Yeah.
But anyway, it must be halfway to the holidays because they just released a really cute set of Hanukkah ears and things like that. So they're basically saying, here's the future merch and here's the cool things that we're going to be offering and all of that. And DCL got its own little showcase. So I do think people are like, okay, well, I can't make it this year, but I bet those offerings will be around next year. So I'm going to book these cruises next year.
Yes. And they're very cute.
Right.
The little outfits. You know me. I love me an outfit.
You do love you an outfit.
Which is funny because I put almost no effort into my own actual outfits. But I love character outfits.
Y'all, we're going to do a separate episode where we might talk about this, but at the Pride night, last night at Disneyland, they premiered all new Pride outfits for all the characters. And Clarabelle, when I tell you that Clarabelle was tearing up Main Street. That girl could dance. She had this beautiful dress on, off the shoulder number. It was so good. So I'm with you, Christy. I like the outfits, and I feel like your favorite part of Alaska was seeing them all in their like deadliest catch outfits.
I mean, I loved the cruise and the scenery. Loved all that.
But you loved Mickey in that Deadliest Catch fisherman outfit, right?
I mean, Mickey in the fisherman outfit, adorable. But Minnie in her, I'm going to be all bundled up for winter.
Also cute.
Very cute.
Okay, so historically, the way that we do this is we would go ship by ship, right? So maybe let's start with the oldest ship first. Do you want to, or do you want to do with the most boring itineraries first?
Which, isn't that the same?
Okay, so we're going to start with the magic. So Christy, where's the magic going, and is there anything noteworthy?
Okay, so there is a 7-night Southern Caribbean on the Magic November 8th.
Mhm.
And other than that, she is sailing from both Galveston and Fort Lauderdale. And she's doing like 3, 4, and 5 nights. Oh, and she does have so Galveston, she's doing 5 and 6 night Caribbean sailings, as well as a bunch of 4 nights. And then she does a repositioning to San Juan and does a 7-night Southern Caribbean, but literally one sailing. And then she like comes back from San Juan on a 3-night sailing and then does Lighthouse Point and a day at sea. So I guess that one is a unique itinerary. But then the rest of it, it's all basic like Progresso, Cozumel, Grand Cayman, depending on which port she's starting at when she's ending.
Do we have a sense of how often a ship is going to Lighthouse Point versus Castaway Cay, or both?
I think it depends on the ship. So, like, the Fort Lauderdale cruises are more likely to go to Lighthouse Point. And I don't know that that's completely across the board. Like, what has your studying been telling you?
So, yes, most of the ones out of Fort Lauderdale have a Lighthouse Point. However, I will note, if you look under at the little asterisks, there are more like little asterisks on this saying, oh, this goes here instead of here on these sailings than I've ever seen before. For instance, these, let me see here. We find a magic one since we're talking about the magic.
So there was a Disney Dream one with an asterisk that is from Fort Lauderdale doing Castaway Cay instead of Lighthouse Point, or Castaway Cay instead of Nassau. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's the double star. So November 23rd on the Disney Dream is doing a 4-night that includes a double island stop. What are we calling it? Where she's going to go to Lighthouse Point and Castaway. And that is that far enough into the week to be over Thanksgiving? November 23rd?
Yeah, it should be. I did just have 2024 open.
This is live radio, everybody. Yeah, so it's a 4-night cruise. It looks like Thanksgiving is going to be your last night of the cruise.
That's
sounds
a fun
amazing.
way to end. Yeah.
I could see myself wanting to get on that cruise. You know, I love me a private island. So, and it's a good way to do Thanksgiving. And because it's a shorter cruise, potentially, I think that math isn't right, though.
I think you'll miss Thanksgiving, actually.
Thanksgiving's the next one. So, if you are in Florida, though... Oh, no, Thanksgiving is the week before.
Yeah,
We're all wrong.
It's a weird week. That's what I was saying.
No, it isn't. It's that week. Okay, I've lost my mind. But yes, it is the 28th. So, and there is a sailing after that going at the 27th too. So just pretend all of this didn't happen. We can't edit it out because it's never being edited. It's fine.
Well, that's fine. It's live. I will say, to me, the new like premier Disney Cruise Line itinerary will be a stop at Lighthouse, a stop at Castaway.
Yeah. And there's several of them. There's a 5-night on the Magic. There's like 3 of those that are going to both. There's a fantasy sailing, which we'll get to in a little while, that's going to both.
There's, I think, quite a few fantasy sailings once we get to that. And there's a few dream sailings as well.
You know what? There's another one we missed for the Magic that's going round trip San Juan. Oh, no, that one's to get it to Galveston. So it's starting in San Juan, ending in Galveston. That one's going to Lighthouse Point and Castaway, and then 3 days at sea. That's kind of a fun itinerary, too.
Wait, on what? On what?
The Magic.
On the Magic, San Juan.
Oh, yeah,
Puerto
there you
Rico,
go, Nova. And, well, you'd have school. That doesn't work.
Oh, I was just about to be like, I'm looking for San Juan cruises since we can't sail out of Florida right now. That would be an option. I'm desperate to go to Lighthouse Point.
So you can take the child out of school and go November 15th.
Yes, easy peasy.
Piece
Just
of
a
cake.
week out of school.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so the Magic isn't doing much, but there are some fun stops at both Lighthouse and Castaway. And then, just so I can be sure, it's mostly selling out of Fort Lauderdale, you say?
No, I think it's mostly sailing out of Galveston.
Okay,
But it
so
gets
Galveston
to Fort
still gets
Lauderdale.
love.
Exactly.
Okay, so then let's shift gears to the Wonder.
Let's go to the Wish really quick.
Okay, because the Wish is doing the same 3 and 4 nights constant.
Unremarkable.
Yes, maybe we should have started with that. So, and yes, Lake, unremarkable. 3-4 nights alternating. I don't see, and I could be missing it, I don't see anything special there.
I don't
even see an asterisk.
Nothing different. It's Nassau Castaway day at sea on the 4 night, and then Nassau and Castaway on its 3 nights. Nothing super crazy.
The remarkable thing about that, though, is the Wish is new and shiny, and they're not going to give you a new and shiny boat and a new and shiny island on the same sailing, right?
Wow,
the Wish never goes
that
to
may
Lighthouse.
not be true.
Oh.
The Wish is currently not going to Lighthouse, but that may not be true. Let's talk about the may not be true part, which is the treasure. We don't know anything about yet.
Sure. You can make some speculations on, I think, the next ship we're going to hit here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so the Fantasy is continuing to sail out of Port Canaveral, but it's kind of breaking tradition of its 7 nights that it's been on for, since it's come out.
Inception. Mm-hmm.
Has it left anywhere but Port Canaveral on, basically 7, some 8 night sailings. Occasionally you get a long and a short one, but on rotation it's been an average of those 7 night sailings. It's kind of all over the place now, which definitely leaves some speculation for what might be going on here. And this is also the one that's got the most asterisks for I'm actually going here, not here.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a rotation of 3 and 4 nights leaving out of.
Let's start with the 7 nights. So basic
those
7,
are the normal.
Right. Basic normal, quote unquote, 7 nights. Doing the Eastern, doing the Western for October, some of October. Well, we can't even say it's not even a whole month of any of those places. So the previous release got us through September, basically, right? On the Fantasy. Is there a dry dock in there somewhere?
I would need to put it on the calendar because it is all over the place.
And I need to see, but it would be before, because did all of September release when they did the summer release for 2024? I don't see, well, it must have, because I don't see any September sailings for anybody. So, except for the Wonder. So they must have released all of September when they previously and I don't know every date, guys, right? So usually I'm staring at the computer to tell me what's happening. So every ship is starting in October, which is definitely later. So they definitely put more into summer. But she is doing her 7 night Eastern Western, nothing new in those sailings except for she doesn't just stay doing her 7 nights. She switches and does these other sailings.
Yeah, so she does. It looks like she does basically a round of 3 and 4 nights each month.
Yeah.
So you have 2 7 nights and then 2 rounds of 3 and 4 nights. It's still on the Saturday rotation, which puts your 3 and 4 night day on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of cool too.
Yeah, it does give you another option. That's kind of a cool, long weekend. Is that... Mm-hmm. Let me see here. Let me find... I got to keep like finding it on here. 4-night on the Fantasy, leaving October 12th. Okay, so the 4 nights run Saturday to Wednesday, and then the 3 nights run that Wednesday to Saturday.
Then you could do a weekend at Walt Disney World. There's a couple of notable sailings as well within that. I love my beach days. I love my Castaway Key double dips. And there is a 4-night. There's like 8 4-nights on the Fantasy. I think there actually is more than that. 9. There's a 4-night that goes to Lighthouse and Castaway. And then there's like a double dip in there for 2 different sailings, October 20th and November 10th, that goes to Lighthouse and 2 days at Castaway Key. That's awesome. That's an awesome itinerary.
Cool
it is
sailings.
Mm-hmm. So, and it gets people on the Fantasy that haven't previously been able to get there because of it being a week-long cruise. Not everybody can do those week-long cruises. It doesn't fit into their budget. And so I know some people are thinking of it so that they can check off that box for this ship.
Yeah, I mean, that's our white whale right now. We've hit everything but the Fantasy.
But you have it booked next summer.
We do have it booked next summer. We are very excited for that.
And then there's another one off on the Fantasy. The New Year's Eve cruise, December 29th, is sailing to St. Martin in San Juan, which is the itinerary you did, Nova, 1,000 years ago, I feel like. And she does not, and then Castaway, she does not go to St. Martin or San Juan these days lately, right? And so that'll be nice to have that sort of one-off itinerary. Of course, a New Year's Eve cruise on a 7-night is always pricey. That particular one is going like very far into the January school year, though. So I'm curious how that will work out pricing wise, because like 2024 New Year's block, kids don't go back to school in Florida at least until like very late, like the 9th or something of January. And so those New Year's Eve week cruises are going to be more expensive. But in 2024 to 2025, they go back much earlier, like a normal return. So they would have to miss school, which might mean that the cruise could be cheaper. I guess that is my point. And then obviously there's a whole bunch of people who don't have to worry about school and things like that. And so it doesn't matter to them.
Okay, so interesting things happening on the Fantasy. Our speculation is that the Treasure is causing the shakeup on the Fantasy, which I've been saying all along that if you were to use the Dream and the Fantasy as our like goalpost here in terms of how it's been in the past, the Dream debuted with 3 and 4 nights. When the Fantasy debuted, she debuted with 7 nights. And they never like switched that up for like a decade.
But Disney fans are bigger freaks now than they were. So I still sort of suspect, which is based upon nothing, literally nothing, that maybe they will do some 3 and 4 nights following the Fantasy's 3 and 4 night rotations, like not necessarily the same time. Yeah. And this way, they can charge more money, get more people on those ships right away. Because remember, it's releasing in October, November. That's typically a lower sailing time for Disney Cruise Line. It's hurricane season, kids are in school, and we don't know if it's releasing in October or November. We're just making that up. But if it's sometime in that season and before the holiday season, they're going to want to get more butts in beds looking at it. So my guess, my based upon nothing speculation is that they will mix it up and do some shorter sailings. But there has to be a week-long Christmas holiday cruise, right? You can't not have a week-long holiday cruise at the prices Disney charges, and the Fantasy's not doing a week-long Disney cruise, which means the Treasure has to.
That's a good point.
You know, I remember I quoted for a family like 4 years ago, 4 or 5, the week-long cruise and fantasy in the starter concierge cabin, and it was $48,000 4 or 5 years ago. Disney is not going to miss $48,000 and up opportunities for that week of sailing. They're not going to miss it. You should see Nova's face right now. Like Lake made a face, but Nova can literally have no emotion whatsoever. She doesn't know what to do with herself.
$48,000 is a crime.
Do we think there's any possibility that the treasure would be going out of Fort Lauderdale? I mean, I feel like Port Canaveral is the assumption, but
it's because of the LNG. They have the LNG shipped up to Port Canaveral for the Wish, so I imagine they wouldn't want to double that operation.
Carnival uses it too.
Don't they have it shipped up from Miami though?
No, I thought they had it shipped up from like Louisiana or something.
But
it like has to go all the way around Florida to get to it.
Lake's Googling.
I am.
But even still,
Lake's typing away.
Even if it did, I don't see that happening right away. I also don't think that their Fort Lauderdale cruises, for whatever, people have something, even though it's more convenient, because the cruise ports are like 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the airport, want to cruise out of Port Canaveral.
Because they want to couple it with Disney World.
Right.
But
Disney wants you to. But now they have that train. It's easier to get there.
Yeah.
In theory.
I just think that the treasure's coming to Los Angeles. It's going to be sailing out of Long Beach.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to do Grand Californian packages.
That's
hot off the presses, everyone.
That's not a thing.
I just think it's interesting that, they're investing in building up that port down there. They're essentially, doing what they did in Port Canaveral.
Are they doing that though?
I believe that was like part of the plan was they took over like a berth and they were doing their own terminal, just like they were there. And it seems silly that there's only going to be one ship down there this whole time.
Well, there'll be 2.
But the magic is spending all that time in Galveston, like over the holidays.
It will be easy for the fantasy to eventually get there though too. But then you're right. There's 2 of the same ships there. Maybe. I don't see that happening. Yeah, but again, we don't know. Who is listening? We have some Patreons listening. Where are your speculations? Give us some comments. Give us your speculation.
We do also have one more ship we still have to hit on here.
Yep. And that one has big hole in the itinerary. And, you know what? We haven't hit on the
We haven't hit on the Dream or the Wonder.
We haven't talked about the Dream. Want to go to the Dream next? Let's go to the Dream next since we're just sort of talking about Fort Lauderdale.
That does tie right in. Yeah, so the Dream is kind of doing a mixed bag here. 4 nights, 5 nights, 5 nights. Does it have any 3-night? Yep, it's got some 3 nights in here as well.
Well, a 3-night at least.
A 3-night. Kind of a cool 3-night. Lighthouse Point and Castaway Cay.
In a 3-night.
Yeah. Key. So that's kind of cool. You're waking up every day to a cool island.
So weird timing, but still very cool.
And then the Dream is doing quite a few actually of these Castaway Cay and Lighthouse Point.
Lake, we're going to have to remove you.
Do it.
I mean, Castaway Cay is the rhyme.
No.
Yeah. Honestly, those short cruises that go to both,
they're gold, and it's on the
gold
Dream
for you and for people who are coupling it with a Disney World trip.
Well, a 5-night cruise that goes to the private islands actually is a very affordable cruise and still long enough to make it a cruise. People take a travel. I'm actually shocked on my fall cruises I have coming up how many people are traveling from out of state to go on a 3-night Disney Wish cruise for their first cruise. I'm like, whew, you're taking a long journey to go on a 2.5-day cruise, but good for them. But there's enough 4 and 5-night cruises out of Fort Lauderdale that are going to Lighthouse Point. Well, most of them are just, so the 4-night is just mostly going to Lighthouse Point, which is also awesome that you can get to the new island without going on the Magic, which don't at me, don't hate on me, but the Magic is older. And so, and she's not as good for little tiny kids in diapers. The splash pad isn't as good. There's just some things like that, right? So, but the 5-night, all are double island stops. So Derry commented she thinks that the treasure will have to visit Lighthouse Point, just looking at what's available. Yeah, somebody needs to chart out who are I should get the listener we had on, or the touring plans data person that we had on, to chart out the days that they're going to stop at Castaway. Although we could make that chart because Disney releases the itinerary next week with where they're going. So somebody could make that chart with what days Castaway is free and when they could put a ship there.
Yep.
Who wants to do that? Somebody volunteer, listener, and we will give you credit and we will post it. So
I don't volunteer as tribute.
I'm sorry.
I said I won't volunteer as tribute for that. I'd be very bad at that. But I bet you what's his face? The blog.
Oh, DCL.
Yeah, he probably does that, right?
Blog. Maybe. But I don't know that he would go that into depth with which days Castaway doesn't have a ship.
That's true. The treasure is sort of like our mystery. I did say yesterday on like a text thread that we have, that I think the reason why they didn't announce the treasure here is because they don't want to cannibalize their own business. And they can get a whole bunch of people to book right now. And yes, some people will jump they'll drop these things for the treasure once it's announced, but some people won't. Some people will be like, we had our whole family's heart set on this thing and we're going to do it.
Or we agreed to pay this much and aren't going to agree to pay, this price 2 times or 3 times the price.
Just for the shiny new thing. Yeah. So right. I think like this is smarter from a business standpoint. It also gives the treasure its own little, they could do what they did for the Wish, with that like grand reveal, and then be like, and it's available to start booking next week. That would be synergistic.
And Derry said, spread out the marketing moments and the bookings. For sure, it makes people's lives that do the bookings a little crazy for all of those weeks. And also it's summer, which is crazy. When the Wish got booked, what was the order? Was the regular summer released first and then the Wish, or was the Wish released first and then the summer?
I believe I want to say the regular was released because you could see the hole where the Wish was like taking over. And it was like literally, it was maybe like 2 weeks after the release where, they made the big PR jump with Book the Wish now.
Yeah. This works for me because I already did my summer plans. Now I'm just working.
Now you have a boring summer.
Now I have a perfectly reasonable working life summer, AKA boring. So I have time. I have a friend who's doing like a month in Europe, and she now gets to try to do placeholder calling and all the things next week while she's in Europe on her summer cruises. Also every time you call, I don't know why I'm coming up with this and putting this here on the podcast, but anytime you call Disney Cruise Line on the travel agent line, they say you can book online. And I'm like, you are mocking us, because I would not be booking this over the phone if I could book it online. So when you do a placeholder, you have to call it, even though they even announce there's all kinds of new things you can do online. You should do it online. Like, yeah, not that. Can't do that online. So remember that whenever you are trying to use a placeholder, that you still have to call it in.
I'm going to bring it back to the dream here because we did have one more sailing that we did not talk about, which is actually, I think it's first sailing on this list, which is the 13-night, westbound transatlantic. So coming back from Europe, you've got a nice long 13-night sailing, stops in Spain, Lisbon, Portugal, Ponta Delgada, Lighthouse Point, and 8 wonderful days at sea.
That's really cool. Wow. So you have your 8 days of sea and your freedom day is Lighthouse Point. That's not bad. Look at Nova's face.
I'm not. The 8 days at sea makes me stressed. They're not in a row, right?
What?
Yeah.
It's 8 days in a row.
It's pretty close to that.
Terry said coming south is so much better and she's tempted. Do it, Terry. And wait, because sometimes those come out at a discount later a little bit. Yeah, so that's a dream. I could finally read some books.
You read quite a few books.
Mm-hmm.
This is a retirement cruise. When am I going to be able to do that with kids?
Well, your kid is not in high school forever. And then you have time and you have less time than I have to wait. So not that long. Okay, so that's a very cool cruise. That's October 20th. And then she does all of her coolness after. So October 20th to November, what's 13 days later? 2nd or something. What happens to her?
Wait, is
November 2nd. She does a 4-night that does the Lighthouse Point and and Castaway. So you could stay on and then go back to Lighthouse Point, and that's an asterisk cruise that goes. Oh no, never mind. You go to Castaway. So you would have to book if you wanted to do Lighthouse Point and Castaway. You could do your October 20th. You could do your November 2nd sailing, and then get Castaway instead of both. So that's an option though, because you just make it a 17-night cruise.
No. An option.
You know, some people are going to do it.
I know.
There was a couple in Europe last year for the entirety of the Magic season. They did the transatlantic. They did the entire season. They went back. Goals.
That'd be amazing.
Goals.
Wait, I want to go back and look. Is anybody coming from... are there any cruises out of New York?
No.
Nothing.
And that's
on
the other thing that people are real interested in. I've had clients. There's been some chats in our Patreon group about it. So, yeah. But the Wonder also has gaps. And
what would the gaps? What would be the explanation for Wonder gaps?
Well, it's missing all of the time that it's spending in Australia right now. Right.
So they basically haven't announced.
But no, that's not true. I don't think, because Anthony was texting me about Australia, but I thought there was another gap for the Wonder, but maybe I'm wrong. Because if you go to like Australia at sea or some group there, some Facebook page, website page, they talk about the Australia sailings.
Sydney, they did announce the Sydney to Honolulu sailing, the 15th night.
But so the Australian sailings, I will say, like if you click on the website and do a search, maybe you can see them in there as well. They're definitely positioned, advertised for Australian clientele. And they are like, go on a 6-night cruise and stop one time. Here we go. Derry just posted a link. So Disney Wonder new itineraries, basically. And then we can see them. Dennis has joined us. Dennis, what'd you make for dinner? Dennis is always cooking something amazing. Oh, look it. I did it. I did a thing that I didn't mean to do. this is so for the people that are watching in our Facebook group, you can now see Derry's link because I have shared it to our faces. Everybody else will just have to look it up themselves. But if you go to Disney Wonder and new itineraries, you should be able to see them there.
Yep, it's all on here. Lots of 2 nights, 3 nights again. 3 nights, 3 night, 4 night, 4 night, 4 night.
But they stop at like one place.
Yep, sailing to New Zealand, sailing to Hobart. Yeah. Some of these don't even have sailing tos. They're just...
Yeah, well, it's round trip Sydney going nowhere.
Yeah. It's kind of cool,
or Melbourne. Though. Melbourne is another one. So, and I have an Australian client that's going on the one next year.
That's awesome.
It's not... Right, we Americans are less likely to fly across the pond to go on a 2-night cruise or even a 6-night cruise. They're definitely not marketed or designed for us. And I don't know why they didn't just add more stops and do it.
One 7-night that has 3 stops. It's sailing from Melbourne, and it's got a stop in Eden, Sydney, and Hobart, Australia.
But okay.
So wait, is that 2 stops or 3? What was the third?
You got Eden, Australia, Sydney, Australia, Hobart, Australia, and it's sailing from Melbourne.
So that's what date is that? Is it over a holiday? I feel like it would be over a holiday.
That is November 3rd to the 10th.
Not over a holiday at all.
Wait a minute. It's the Wonder doing this?
Mm-hmm.
They need to stop calling these cruises Disney Magic at Sea.
Well, I know, but that's what they did. Wait, and is it will say that?
It does. All of these bookings say
they all say
Disney Magic at Sea, which I'm like, y'all have a ship called the Disney Magic.
But the reason is because when the Magic did those English only sailings, it was the Disney Magic at Sea, and they've decided apparently to keep that
marketing moniker. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. It's confusing.
Sure, it is. But so you can do a 7-night with multiple stops to Australia in November. That is an option. Otherwise, it's doing the sailing out there. Well, it's doing the Hawaiian sailing September 23rd. It's 10-night, 3 different Hawaiian stops. Sorry about all my words. 5 days at sea, and you end up in Vancouver. And then she does the Alaska season.
No,
she said the wrong direction.
February.
She was in Vancouver. She went to Honolulu.
No, but she goes from Honolulu to Vancouver, and then it's not announced yet, but we'll probably do a repositioning down to Mexico.
Well, she'll do something.
I mean, she can't go to Alaska as early as February, so she has to reposition from Vancouver down to San Diego.
Right.
I just don't know why.
If that's what she's doing. Well, what do you mean why? She could do those San Diego sailings. Oh, but it's kind of cold in February.
No, they typically do that in that season. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know why go all the way north to Vancouver.
They do.
You could go,
they have to have the U.S.
instead
of going to Mexico.
Yeah, Ensenada's like 4 minutes from San Diego. Just do a little stop off there.
Very good point. And talk about places that are cold.
So I don't know why that is happening, but maybe it's just the vibe they're going for.
Maybe they're going back after.
Yeah, maybe they're going to announce a return.
I spoke to 2 different cast members on this Alaskan sailing that they are filling. So they've already staffed the Wonder for the 2024 for this next one coming up. And these cast members are mostly from Asian countries and or from Canada. And so that's one reason they're going back, because they're just dropping off their people.
Oh, I guess dropping off crew makes sense now that you say that. Okay, friends, I have to go, but I know you two can bring it home. So I'll see you later, and happy itinerary announcement.
Bye, Nova. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Okay, so then after the September 23rd 10-night Hawaiian from Vancouver to Honolulu, she starts the Hawaiian sailings. Or I mean
Well, the South Pacific.
Yes, the Australian sailings. So she does a 15-night from Honolulu to Sydney starting October 3rd. And this is where we need Steve to say all the places.
We got Pago Pago, Suva, Normay, Sydney, and 10 Days at Sea. I'm sure I butchered at least one of those.
We're going with that. 10 Days at Sea is a lot.
That is a lot.
Like those locations are amazing.
Yep.
Who doesn't want to go to Fiji?
America's any of those.
Samoa, bring it on. Sounds great. But 10 Days at Sea, I mean, talk about your books that you're reading. That's fabulous. I am very jealous of the people that get to do that. Remember, when you have these longer sailings, like 5 Days at Sea or Transatlantic, Panama Canal, they'll do things where they open up the kids clubs for adults. They do sleepovers, like actual sleepovers in the kids clubs for children. And then they'll also do a late night party for adults only in the kids clubs, different night. So like they do really cool things. They have the pictures where you can get the characters with all of them put together. And, you know, those are such rarities. Even to get like a Mickey and a Minnie standing next to each other is a rarity. But to get like all the Fab 7 or something put together, that is awesome. And they do that type of stuff over those long sailings.
Yeah, they definitely go all out trying to fill those days with interesting activities.
Yep.
That was definitely one thing we missed on our Norwegian sailing was like some of the Disney entertainment offerings, like while we were at sea or not in a port.
Mm-hmm. You did snippets though too, right?
We did. I'm almost done editing my side, and then Steve will do his magic on his side and post it up.
Yep. So as a reminder that Steve is in Europe, so this episode that you all that are not Patreons will be listening to, he's going to try to get it up this week, but the rest of which we didn't talk about. Do I just hit end broadcast? We didn't discuss this ahead of time. Oh, and I do the little outro music.
Yep. So you'll just go to, yep. You don't even have to remove. You can just hit the ending and music. Then hit end.
Okay. So sorry guys. This is in the know. This is Christy handling the controls, and I never handle the controls. This is my first time doing moment this. Here. Yeah. Now you get to see the behind the scenes. Okay. So then, you know, she does her Australian sailings, and then she comes back to Hawaii February 10th and repeats those posts and then or ports, ends though or goes to a different Hawaiian island, and then she does a 9-night Hawaiian sailing ending in Vancouver, which is what Nova was asking about, and I agree that's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, that is a weird way to do it there. It's a weird time of year for that. So then its first sailing should be some sort of weird repositioning cruise as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it has to be, which is cool because then it'll in theory the cruise that goes down underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, right? We had Amber came on once to talk about that, and seems like, you know, that would be a cool, like a unique itinerary, right? To think about for February, whenever that comes out.
Yep. And Derry did say, looking forward to hearing about your cruises more. Did you guys do snippets as well?
We did. We have to finish. So we did a few, and then we have to close out our final snippet and our final day, which Dave and I will do in the next couple of days. And then Steve will post that. Remember, there's no editing in snippets, although Lake is amazing and can edit his own snippets. So they just go up as they are.
Yeah, but, I did go through mine a little bit.
I don't have that capability.
And then I'll have vlogs out. Actually, I think my first one goes out tomorrow.
And where do they find those?
On our YouTube channel at MouseGen, MOUSEGEN. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all of that fun YouTube-y stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. I was just watching your Eugene half marathon today at lunch. Or full marathon. Katie's half.
It was Katie's half. That was a
yeah.
fun video and a fun weekend.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll have I'm going to have a ton of videos out from that trip.
Yes.
We'll have a ship tour as well, and also a vlog from Disneyland from our short time out there.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. So I think that is it for tonight. I am going to figure out if I can figure out how to close this up. And, if not, that's okay too. So, I do this.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.